All right. Back on the trail. No wind, very still day. More birds than usual, though. For December, very warm. Yeah, loads of birds. Anyway, let's see what the trail can teach us today. Or let's see what I can speak about, at least for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Seems to be the most suitable amount of time for me to really speak at length about anything. Alright, so let's get into the deep stuff. Let's talk about death. No, it's not that deep, but I did have an interesting sort of perspective shift in regards to this topic of death, on this topic of we're all gonna die. In general, people think of death and they imagine themselves dying one day at some point in some indeterminate time in the future. And of course, if you're very young, this day in the future seems ages and ages away. And as you age, of course, things speed up, and the inevitable seems to be moving towards you with ever increasing speed. All right, nothing new there. The interesting thing, though, is this idea that, again, people imagine themselves dying one day, and they probably imagine themselves to be old. And they imagine an encounter with death, however they imagine death to be. So they might give him shape in the form of a grim reaper, Shadowy figure, skeletal figure shows up with a scythe. All right. Now, they imagine that during this encounter, during this moment, that's when the person finally forfeits their life and everything that it entailed up until that point, meaning that that's when you hand death all your memories, all your experiences, all of your 70, 80, 90, maybe 100 years of experience, of life. It's as if death comes with this sizable bag, a big potato sack, and he has to take this existence, your essence, basically, finally take it, and then go off with it. And people imagine that it is at that moment that you go beyond, again, whatever your conception of beyond is, if you even have one. And the perception is that that's kind of when we meet death. But I don't know who pointed this out. I don't know if I've read this somewhere. Maybe it is by an author or something, because I thought about this before I recorded. I just no names came up, but anyway, it's been pointed out by someone that really death doesn't arrive with a potato sack. At best he arrives with like a purse, you see, because he's not there for, or like a little bag, basically, because he's not there for your entire life to take it at that moment. He's only there for your last day, really. He's only there for your last minutes, in fact. You see, he's already consumed. The Grim Reaper's already consumed whatever life you've lived up until that point. You are the beefiest. You are the juiciest for this thing called death when you are born. because all your potential lies ahead. It is the life yet lived, which death chips away at sort of every day. And so, if a soul is hoisted into this world, into this circus from blissful nothingness, with again 70, 80, 90 years ahead of it, well, from death's perspective, it's a bit like they look at the soul a bit like a farm animal, ready to get fattened up and harvested for decades to come. And if this soul happens to die really young, well, it's almost as if death kind of gets cheated. There's less to harvest if they check out early. Whereas if the hourglass for this soul, on the top portion of the hourglass, has a huge heap of sand many, many years ahead, well, there's more to harvest. More sand to collect. So people, in general, project death on the sort of timeline of their life as they move through time. They project death to be something in the future, on the forward trajectory, somewhere around the bend, perhaps. And that's the moment when finally you have to forfeit all your memories and all that kind of stuff. And again, I don't know where I read this from, but what got pointed out to me was that death is actually something that's with you every day, you see. Because the day you lived yesterday, and even the few minutes ago, the minutes that you just experienced, are already in death's hands. Your entire past life is already claimed, The scythe has already been busy, if that makes sense. Everything that you've experienced has already joined the exact same void behind you, and the exact same void in which all the lives that have ever occurred on this planet have already joined. Everybody's experiences, everybody who has died on this planet, they're already there, including all the greats, of course, all the Napoleons, all the Beethovens, everybody, and your past, no matter how significant or insignificant it was, it's already been claimed, you see. So death is basically not forward, necessarily. He's right behind you. He's got his bony-ass hand right on your shoulder. Do you get the difference in sort of that thinking? I thought it was very interesting. We think something about our memories, so long as we have them, something about that keeps the past alive. The past is alive so long as we are alive and we hold on to these memories and experiences. And yet, really, they've already been claimed, you see. They've already died. And they've joined that sort of same cosmic sort of compost heap in which all other life resides. So kind of a subtle difference, but it gave me stuff to think. It's like gives the whole matter an extra sense of urgency, I suppose. It's a more sober way of thinking about it. By the time you're 90 and you're on your deathbed, you will have already died numerous times over, And in that sense, the final day really is perhaps the easiest, or at least it could be. when you really meditate on this idea that again, the entire continuity of your life is already been claimed. You've already died, you know? And there's not much more for Death to harvest at that late point. It's already been harvested. He's already fed, you know? Aside this sense of urgency, I think this is also useful to think about in terms of the value we give our memories in general, or the value we give to this sort of biographical, chronological story of our own lives and other people's lives. Because, again, those stories, those memories and all the rest have occurred within the portion of time that's already been claimed. So in some sense, all that stuff is in fact dead, and the only thing we can the only raw material, you know, that we can really use going forward is the time yet to be claimed, you know? That's really all we have to work with. And in some sense, you know, this it releases you perhaps to some degree from giving too much weight to all this stuff that has gone before, you know, whatever events transpired in the past and all that kind of thing. They of course shape who you've become and all this kind of stuff. So it has to be taken into account to some degree. But on the whole, yeah, like the only raw material that we have is the minutes ahead, and that's it, right? And so, an interesting perspective shift, at the very least, in my opinion. One that perhaps serves to sober people up and sort of help you fight this very human tendency to, project death into the future for one thing, and to live without a certain urgency, you know. People think they have all the time in the world and all this kind of stuff, and again, it's because of this perceived luxury of not really having to confront, you know, the Grim Reaper for many years to come. You know, this creates a sort of an illusion that death is something that we deal with, you know, at some point in the future, you know, whereas in reality, you kind of have to make peace with it in some sense every day, you know, because again, the time behind you, the coffee you had this morning, the walk I had, you know, earlier today, it's already been claimed. It's already been claimed. Very interesting stuff. Related to this whole topic is a quote. I love to quote writers, you know. I think it's Nabokov. How do you pronounce that? Russian author of Lolita and other excellent books. Shout out to the Russian writers. Some of the smartest motherfuckers out there to ever put pen to paper, you know. Anyway, it was him who said something like, life is just like a brief crack of light between two eternities of darkness. Two eternities of darkness just splintered by this sort of shard of light. But it's peculiar that people are much more terrified of the void that they project to be coming at them from the future, as opposed to the void that they've just left behind by being hoisted again out of non-existence into life, right? But not only are you going towards death, you pretty much emerged from it too, didn't you? And yet his point is that people are much less terrified at the thought of having emerged out from death, and I thought that's pretty interesting too. Because if you think back to the time before you were born, there was all this stuff going on without your consciousness being present, you know? And it's just another sort of infinity, basically. Just it extends into the past, basically, forever. So you're just kind of, your appearance is just kind of in between these two voids. And again, it's just something to, just an interesting thing to visualize, you know. Anyway, take that for what you will. This is the video for today. I do think we're approaching 15 to 20 minutes at this time. I thought I saw some flowers blooming, but that would make no sense because it's like December. Thought I saw something blue, but nope. I did see. I was wondering in a previous video, like, would I see any animals here, and which ones I might encounter. And a couple of days prior, I just saw, it must have been like an elk, huge animal, just bolts across the road, and the coat was like white almost, and because the snow has melted as well, it really stuck out from like the backdrop of the trees and stuff. So there are big animals present. They're very squeamish though, so this one just kind of bolted, and I went into the thicket trying to catch up with it, thinking I'm at least going to see it, because again, it's not exactly camouflaged, you know, it's like light gray. But I just couldn't find it, you know. I even went into the thicket and it was just gone, you know, so I must have just bolted. But I did find some pretty nice spots in the thicket there, so if I go off the main path, maybe get one of those portable camping chairs, and there's some nice spots in there I can go in and hide in. So looking forward to that. And yeah, that's my contribution for the day.